recording. I found a way to record, so I introduce again. Welcome to everybody to the specific group on the policies. I go back to the first slide, advocacy and policy influencing. This is a second step because there was already a discussion supported on Basecamp, and my colleagues have already collected some relevant statements that will merge together with the result of the today discussion in the Peer Learning Club #2 policy paper that will be released at the end of this whole process. And this statement refer, of course, to the ethical impact that is behind the whole structure of the Skillman and approach and the SkillNet initiative. The priorities that the participants have already identified, of course, refer to concrete things about right, about quality and inclusive education, lifelong learning processes, and so on. You can read by yourself the slide, of course. What I'm going to introduce is a part that the statement confirms the ethical engagement of the Skillman network. We have to reflect how to bring on these ethical issues, the view of the Skillman network members, in a way that create a situation where the TVET providers, and in particular I refer to the COVES structures. You know that we are running this COVES sub-network, I would say, and we are pushing it so strongly to make this sub-network very effective. In a way, I was saying, that will allow the COVES to play an effective role in the policy-making arena. Now, I have here the indication how you can activate your annotate functionality in your side. And by my side, I have to start the annotate, and I have to change the sharing to create the board where we can all together write. So I change now this, and I hope it works because it's the first time that I'm doing it. So it's an experiment for me. I think you now have the possibility, yes, someone has already written prova. I just go to give full HD size to the frame. Just a moment. Yes, now it's full HD. Not anymore, sorry. It's technicalities. Okay, more or less it's full HD screen. Now we can write here, let me see, yes. So we have the possibility, clear all drawings. Now, we have the possibility to put some post-it on the board. You can keep on your microphone so we can interact directly. We have small time in front available, so please feel free to interrupt me anytime. I switch now to the next slide on the other screen that you cannot see now, but I will import, I suppose it works, text eraser. No, I'm not able to import. Yeah, draw. No, okay. So you have the draw tool, and you can select a rectangle, a filled rectangle. You can put the rectangle on the screen and then double click and you make your post here. So this is just to show. I suppose that you are seeing. Yes, perfect. So now we are ready to proceed. I delete all and I introduce you the next step that is to reflect on plan strategies and proposals that we can identify. So the idea is to set a process that brings us to be effective, I mean, in Europe arena, but of course, even with other supranational organizations like the United Nations and the others connected or that belongs to the United Nations, or other organizations for Africa, for Americas, and so on. So how we can become effective? There is a strategy that we have in mind. Is a strategy I would resume in 5 points. We need to understand firstly in which kind of power we are interacting, because we interact with organizations that have the power to decide, and we want to influence them in decisions that are closer to our view. So we have to understand which kind of power they manage. If it's a power that is like a flow of consensus, or is a hold power where someone decide and don't want to share with us. Then we have to establish the conditions to face the volatility and the uncertainty of the situations, because this means that the situations change very quickly, and we need to have a system to understand the reality. I think that the COVID structure tried to respond to this. We have to decide what we are looking for, and this is more related to the discussion and debate on Basecamp. So what are the changes that we are looking for, what decision we want to provoke, and what are mostly the needs of the targets, our targets. So what we want, what we can provide to them that could be interesting for them. For example, the targets, I mean the policy making stakeholders, what they need. They need technical support, they need consensus, they need to be re-elected, and so on. And so we need to make an analysis of their own decision-making process or the policy cycle to become able to influence them. Now we have, so you can interact. Please open your microphone and say what you think. And basing on this discussion, we can start to put some post-it to take note of what we want to promote with this discussion.
Perhaps I could say that at the moment we are using 2 phrases, that we're using TIVET and we're using VET. And I know there's a subtle difference, and some of the multilateral agencies use one and the EU uses another. But I think we need to be clear for whoever's going to use any document that we produce as to what we mean. And really, I think it ought to be a little bit more consistent.
Thank you, Richard. I agree that we need a sort of agreement on the language that we use, and this also influence the policy decisions, because the meanings behind the phrases, the statements, and the definitions, of course, influence the direction where the decisions are going. So if you can then resume your thought in a post-it, put it, because in this way we will not forget it. I have put my post-it, for example, because I think that the COVEs have to be pushed in the design of the society of the future with quality control mechanisms. So the decisions that we expect, in my opinion, for example, from the policy makers, is to set an environment for COVEs that oblige them to be part of the design process for the society of the future. So how you could transform your thought Richard, in a way that become something that we can suggest to the policy makers. Any other reactions?
Giovanni.
Yes, please.
This is Georgios from ETF. Good morning.
Good morning.
Apologies because I will have to leave in a few minutes because I have another institutional meeting. I communicated that already. But before I leave, I think this is developing into a very interesting conversation. On the COVES, you know that in ETF we have this slightly different approach from the one that the European Commission is using on COVES, which is to use them as beacons of reforms, which goes along what you're saying there on the post. But of course we are far from that at the moment. Unfortunately, centers of excellence have been seen for some time now as an elitist approach and an example which cannot be duplicated, or it's only for the best and so the excellent. So our concept, of course, is different from that. We perceive excellence as a continuous effort for development, and we have developed different, let's say, indicators to identify what could be this effort and how it could evolve. Based on that, your proposal fits nicely. That once these centers of excellence develop, I think we can go from that level to a higher level towards the vet systems. And we always say that we don't want just a center of excellence, but we want an excellent vet system, and that should be the target. So unfortunately, I will not be able to contribute to the discussion on the board. I really have to go because 10:30 is the other meeting with the German presidency for the vocational skills week. You know, very topic. But thank you very much for this, and I'm keen to follow up, of course, later on. Thank you.
I knew that you have this important meeting, Giorgio, so don't worry, we understand. Thank you very much to try to participate. Thank you. I have taken a small note about the Giorgio statement, and I have written excellence as a continuous effort. I see here, identify the right political context, then the right advocacy networks working on critical mass. Good, I see another post-it that is instead empty. We can, I don't know how to deal with this. Select, move, okay.
Maybe Giovanni, I can comment my post-it. I put the identify the right political context in the sense that to arrive to the policy making, policymakers and influence the policies and I mean projects that are in the local area. We need to understand regarding the challenge which are the right policymakers, because sometimes I mean we look at Europe as a point of reference, but the area in particular with training is the local level, the national or the local regional level. For example, I think to the Italian context, but in other nations is the same. No, there are differences. So there are differences on the impact that a policymaker can have on the different challenges that we might have as a network. So this is something that is important, because maybe we make all the effort to reach the United Nations, but then we will have just guidelines. So, and less impact. The guidelines is okay, but then when there are decision makers are at different tables or different contexts. So this is I think this is very important to identify who is the right actor that can have a real impact to reach our goals. And then I think that mapping, I mean, this is a very operative, goal. Mapping the networks that different stakeholders of our network of the COVES has is important to make to give importance to the challenge, to our goals. For example, we are in different international networks, and it is important to promote few goals, but I mean, working on that in different tables, in different networks, and involve stakeholders, because policymakers and policy decision look at the local level, how many people, how many stakeholders, who are that stakeholder that are involved and want to reach that goals. That is, I think, very important.
Thank you very much. I have did a post-it map in the networks. I was not able to get in time all the other concepts that you have explained, but I think are more or less already included in some other post-it. I have also added rules and procedures from local level to engage COVES, from local level to upper international level, and democratic processes. I think this is something that we have to ask as to the policymakers to give a role, a recognized role to the COVES, not only at local level, not only at international level, but in a continuous process, a democratic participative process. I agree what you were introducing. I think someone has some small problem in setting the colors and the post-it. You can select the format, the color you select afflict the last object that you have selected. So if you select text, when the text take the last color that you have set. If you select draw and then the filled rectangle, then you will have the possibility to make a post-it. Do not use text, use draw rectangle, and then make the double click on the colored rectangle. It's quite complicated, but works. And then it's not possible at the moment. I didn't discover the way to reduce the font they used, but what I can do, because I work with the 4K screen, I can enlarge yes, I can enlarge the whiteboard so we can fit more post-it in this way. Please, you can continue. Now we have not yet a 4K whiteboard, but I think that in your screen, the board now appear with the smaller post-it. I hope that you continue to see the text that is written in each one. Any other comments or
Giovanni?
reflections? Please, Agnese.
Yes, yes. I tried to introduce my post in the board, but maybe I didn't really succeeded. So just wanted to add a little things from my side. My input in order to set up this strategy is actually to set up a multi-stakeholder group or table for discussion in order to elaborate more effective policies, because I work for a network of European regions, and sometimes I can tell that it might be a distance between policy and real world. So I think it would be really nice when it comes to elaborate new policy to really start from a multi-stakeholder approach where like every voice is represented.
Yes, I have done at your name this post-it, multi-stakeholder approach, if you agree. I don't know if someone has disseminated a blank post-it. You can delete all your post-its. So pay attention, better to leave one dead post-it in a corner there than to delete all your post-its. So I have another.
Giovanni,
Yes.
I'm having some difficulty in writing into the stamp, into the post-it. Can you explain again how to do it?
When you have drawn, I show you now in direct. I select draw, and then in draw I select one object that is filled, a rectangle filled, is in the bottom position like 3, line 3 and column 3, the rectangle that is filled. Yes, now someone has did it. Now you make double click on the rectangle and you can write on it, in it. I do the same and I add another post-it by myself, like this. Control V and you create this. I would like to add that is needed more transparency, more transparent mechanism for the involvement of the TVET providers and the companies in the policy making processes. I think that is necessary to ask to the policymakers to set an environment where the COVES can contribute to the policies, starting from local level, arriving to international, supranational level, national and supranational, but in a more transparent way, because I have something to say even now with the European Commission, how they deal with the consultancy processes in the Tibet field. I think that this is a point that we can ask to policymakers to reflect. I see again a blank post-it.
Yes, Giovanni, that's me. I keep on double clicking, but unfortunately, I do not see.
For you. Very strange. But are you using Macintosh or Apple or PC?
No, just a standard laptop PC.
I don't know what to say.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
Can you just put down, can you write for me to make the language consistent? TVET and VET, make it consistent. That's all I'm trying to put in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
TVET and VET definitions must be clarified.
Thanks.
And properly implemented against policy decisions. It's right? Something like this? I think your microphone is
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You can leave the microphone open because we are very few. It's a restricted VIP members meeting.
Okay.
So I try now. I think we can reduce a little bit. Yeah, the system is not very well advanced in technological terms, but it's good because we can remain in the room and not, we don't need to go in other tools to make this post-it exercise. There are various tools that I know. I use Jamboard from Google, or there are other private tools that works very well. This is quite rudimentary, but I see that it is working. It's first time that I'm using it. Another aspect I have in mind, for example, that is necessary to set a mechanism at policy level that involve the students through the Tibet centers and also the companies, where the companies have the apprentice, for example. So we need to make a participative process to share decisions, because decisions on education in Tibet and VET, considering your point, Richard, are must be participated by the learners, that it's supposed to be the main actors of this. I add my note here. I see that other posts are coming, so you have understood how it works, and we start to have some concrete posts. Then when you want to move your post-it or resize the post-it, you have to select another tool that is the select tool. This, for example, doesn't want to go smaller. Okay, I will put here. Then if we increase the number, I can increase, but now I'm at the maximum of my screen. That is a 4K screen. It means 4 times full HD screen.
Giovanni, I put it also another post-it on KPI.
Yes, please.
I can comment. I mean that when we are talking with policymakers and decision makers, it's very important to collect in a permanent way, in a stable way, data on the result, on the KPI of our objective and our goals, because this can give a consistent to the request, let's say, to for a policymaker, because we need to consider when you said to consider target needs, we need to consider that policymakers need to give some results, no? So yeah, we can collect this data and show that there are good results on following one way. This is easier for someone to decide, I mean, to start considering the challenge, the goal that we wanna reach. This I think is very important. And
absolutely,
this is also easy. This is very linked to the discussion, the base camp, according to having one more less fragmented system to collect data, for example. This is, I mean, a big challenge, because all the information regarding vet trainings and TVET are very fragmented. But this is very important when we need to see if something is having an impact.
Absolutely, I understand what you mean, and of course we understand why you say this, because it's your approach as a company, and you are a researcher, and so it's clear that you get in mind this special aspect. I think that this is part of the strategy that I was saying before, that we need to provide these policy makers with specialistic information. So when I was saying we have to reflect on what they need this kind of information. We need to let them to understand, basing on our experience and work, and your experience is a researcher, experience of a researcher, and your organization makes research. So we need them to understand how to set the collecting of information and the managing of the information and the data to become able to respond to the societal needs. I don't know if I have said something that is not coherent with your thought. This is what I got in mind. So please, Linda, I didn't hear you yet. You are in Berlin, right? You can open your microphone and talk. I cannot open your microphone. You have to do it. Now it's still closed. I think Valentina gave us until 45, or I don't remember. Someone remember which time she said?
Yes, I think we have to go back by 4 minutes ago.
Okay, but
yes, exactly.
I think they will bring us back. The host.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had some problems with the microphone. Yeah, maybe to your last thought, also from our experience as being involved in a lot of projects for exchanges. What you said, maybe I wanted to add, also relying on best practices. So when it comes to the networks as well, like taking into account also the best practices we had in being involved in some projects. For example, we were involved in another VET project in the mechanical field, and this project is already, let's say, concluded, but we would like to strive still on the outcome. So we would like to maybe create some, just take into account what we already experienced in the last projects.
Yes, I have created
Also,
one.
Thank you. Yeah, I think my computer is a bit slow. I'm sorry, it took me some time.
Yeah. You see that I have enlarged the screen, but now the system obliged me to make very large post-it because there is a sort of margin that doesn't allow to read all the text. That's very strange. I don't know. Sorry, probably. Yes, because I tried to trick the system, but the system resists to us. Okay, we don't care about this. We leave this big post-it just for 2 lines. Okay.
To go back to the plenary, we need to push the button leave room, and you have.
No, I think they will take us back. But where is this button? Sorry for my ignorance. Leave the breakout room. Okay. So if this is the time, we can go back. We have, I think, good suggestions for the discussion. Now it will be my duty as a rapporteur to try to make this as some reasonable thought for the colleagues. Please do not think that I will be very able. I will try to do my best in the very short time available. So, okay, we can go. Any word by your side before to go back to the plenary?
No, but thank you very much, Giovanni, for facilitating this.
Thank you very much to all of you, and we can go back. I hope to click on the right button. I see more in the panel, and then leave breakout room. Is clear for everybody?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Giovanni.
Okay. Ciao. Bye bye. Ciao. See you in the room.
Yeah, we are waiting. We are waiting for the news. Yeah, we will have a dense autumn, we can say, with a lot of new documents, new recommendations, new plans. So. To face any condition, I think, at the moment, after the last month. So,
yeah.
Good morning, Giovanni.
Good morning. I have just created a small disaster. It is not catastrophic, but I came back from the breakout room without saving the shared board. This doesn't mean that we have lost it, because fortunately I was recording. I was recording the session.
A session, yeah.
But at the moment, I do not have the notes, because I'm not the host of the meeting and I cannot go back. So I tried to go back to the room. The board is not taking.
We're back. Yeah.
So we are almost ready to share the results. Hoping to be able to continue.
Yeah, I think the working groups were just finalizing the discussion, and they will be back very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not easy to stop the discussion.
Yes, of course. So we can continue the discussion on Basecamp.
Yeah, this is what we agreed as well.
Yes, this is a good starting point. Also, the motivation of the participants to share the ideas and purposes on Basecamp in the next days and weeks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed something. Are we waiting for other groups to join, or are we?
Yes, probably the last one, the number 4.
Okay.
You are here, the second group is here. The third was the first one to end the session, the collaborative session, and then we are waiting for the last.
Because to have Federica in the room was quite challenging.
I was rushing.
She put a lot of pressure on us. I thought I was the last one, but I'm not, so perfect.
Yes. She is very clear to manage. She's very clever in managing the time, you know. So.
And who's managing the P-Learning Club number 4?
Julian.
We're back. So Valentina, please. We are all here.
It seems that Harry and Julian are on the same beach. Could we all go?
You're all invited.
Hello.
Hello.
So,
Just a second, please.
So I know that Julian has been elected president of IVETA, so probably we can congratulate with him.
Oh,
congratulations, Julian.
Future.
Yes, future, and yeah, a last news we can say. So sorry for my saying before vice president, and congratulations for your new nomination.
Thank you very much.
Grande Julian.
Thank you.
An applause for Julian.
Oh, no. I'm red already.
Yeah.
You didn't expect this, Julian.
No.
Okay.
Giovanni.
Yeah.
Anna Maria.
Anna Maria. Hello, Anna Maria. Welcome.
Ciao.
Okay, I have to say the discussions were really fruitful.
Yeah, okay.
Sì, mi sono collegata col suo oggi.
So everybody's back to the main room, so we can move on. We're a little bit in delay, but no problem, because we just need to show the results of our debate. So I'm going to ask Elena to just remind us the challenges of each peer learning club, and then we will show the results of the debates by the coordinators. Thank you, Elena.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. Very briefly, for the full PLC1 Advanced Manufacturing Sectoral Dimension, the priorities and the key challenges identified by the clubbers in the first phase. So, education system involved in impacted by the so-called twin transition, so green and digital. A key strategic issue for innovation of the education system is skill and foresight. In order to be able to update and innovate curricula and every kind of learning and training activity for a more effective strategies, supporting employability and reinforcing business education partnership. Then pedagogy, rethinking of how students are prepared for the future, also considering the new overall context after the COVID emergency. So a sort of lesson learned after the COVID. For the PLC2, the priorities and the challenges identified were the following. Valentina, please, if we can share.
Sorry, Elena, I didn't catch that. What do you want me to share?
Yeah, the second, because the main challenges were the ones for the PLC, the ones I listed. So PLC2.
You didn't want to see the strategies of PLC1 first, Elena, as you want? If you want, we can show the strategies first for the PLC1.
Okay, okay. So,
Fabio, I think you're the one who.
Output.
Or Federica, I don't know.
I will,
no, Fabio, sorry.
I will do it. Thank you very much. Just in a couple of minutes, we have taken the priorities already identified, trying to describe the strategy in terms of where do the policymakers have to invest in the future for the development of the priorities you have already seen before. Actually, of course, digitalization in the wide manner must be not only in terms of skills and competencies, of course, but also in terms of infrastructures. We also pointed out a potential issue of social exclusion, meaning that if you don't have access to infrastructures and skills for the digitalization approach of the learning system, you will be out of the employment labor. So we need to invest on this point. Green is very important issue. So the strategy should boost the green approach, of course, of the advanced manufacturing sector itself. But we also have to take in mind that there are cross-sectoral influences, so that the green development can be also from the advanced manufacturing to other sectors. We were mentioning the agricultural sector, in which there are experiments and digitalization of the agricultural fields in order to go on with green activities. So a wider approach to the green issue should be adopted. The skills anticipation issue must be something that can be addressed in an ongoing and continuously activity. This is something that, of course, as you know, Skillman is trying to do itself, but it is not already adopted in all the sectors, in all the countries. So something that can react just in time on any challenge like the one we are facing, the pandemic one, which should be addressed in a continuously way, in a skills anticipation wave. Do we have another slide, Federica? Or Valentina, sorry. Yeah, the transnational recognition, not only recognition, but everything connected to the transnational dimension of developing curricula strategies on the VET sectors. This is something that must be definitively acquired by the transnational entities, considering that actually we are facing some delays in adopting and delivering new curricula, new systems, new pedagogical activities across boundaries. So something must be done to ensure a proper and timely adoption of those kind of strategies. Social inclusion, as I was mentioning before, should be a transversal dimension in all the strategies in order to ensure that nobody will be with fewer potential, fewer opportunities to insert himself or herself in a labor market. Multi-stakeholder cooperation, this is something that I must say is again a transversal in order to ensure that all the dimensions from multi-stakeholders, typologies of stakeholders can ensure the development of suitable strategies in the advanced manufacturing at any level and in all countries. So considering that there are different stakeholders from NGOs, from vet systems, school systems, researchers, industries, policymakers, must be a continuously cooperation in which we have to invest to ensure that every dimension is taken in account. That's it from our side. Of course, we will go on Basecamp for more discussion.
Thank you very much, Fabio. Thank you for your contribution and for the coordination of group number 1. Elena, let's take the challenges of group number 2 so we can move on with the results.
Yes, okay, so priorities and challenges for PLC2, the necessity for TVET providers to become more effective rather than efficient. So to test the innovative solutions for individualization of learning and training. So for example, a so-called lifelong learning account for every citizen. Able to valorize a sort of integrated, centralized learning management systems in order to assess to every high quality training opportunities deployed on territory, a region or nation, or even at international level. Then to cooperate as multi-stakeholders ecosystem for innovating policies, supporting the transition to the TVET of the future, valorizing also the role of the TVET beside the other, we can say, the education supply chain. The focus on upskilling and reskilling of adults, not only youngsters, but also a particular focus on adult workers, also using ICT-based inclusive training environments. We can say that the most key challenge, the prior key challenge of this PLC is work on resilience. So increase the resilience of people and systems to face very, very quick challenges and also unexpected situations we have to face.
Bene, thank you, Elena. Let's immediately see the strategies that were adopted and discussed in the group number 2. They're not here yet. Let's see, just a second. Maybe I should share the presentation directly from Giovanni, who was the coordinator of it. Giovanni, are you ready to show us and present the strategies that you found out? You are muted, Giovanni.
Sorry. Yes, thank you, Valentina. I was writing some note, but I see now that it was the number PLC2. It's okay. You have I have to share my screen, or you have the...
No, I'll do it.
Okay.
Let me know when you see it, because it's loading. Yes?
Yes. Okay, perfect. So yes, I have repeated also that text in the next slide, but please stay there. The discussion was, the discussion was very interesting, even if not very long. We have tried to interact using the board, the whiteboard of the tool, and unfortunately I went away from the breakout room without saving the whiteboard, but fortunately we have the recording that will show us, I hope, the contents. Anyway, having fresh reminds, I tried to put some note during your speeches. Now I would like to define that the group is is a little bit different from the others, is a sort of meta data group, because it's addressed to identify the strategies to influence the policy makers to make proper policy making processes, to involve the TVET players, the TVET actors into the policy making processes themselves. So it's a sort of mirror that we were discussing. Within this, the introduction of this was to focus on the 5 steps that are shown now, in which kind of power the authorities place, because we have different stakeholders that we have to address with our strategy, and we have local stakeholders, regional, national, international. Not all of them have the same positioning, respect the use of the power. Some one of them is more linked to all the kind of power that is something like a currency that you have and you don't want to spend. Other people ask you to spend this currency, but you keep it in your hands and you won't control the power. So the decisions are taken by yourself alone, and we try to influence this kind of power. In other cases, the power is managed in a different way, participative, like a flow, like electricity, that if you don't close the circuit, the electricity doesn't do anything. So then we have to establish internal conditions to answer to this situations, and we have set the global COVES. We commented about this, the global COVES network. We have to establish what we are looking for. So not only the general approach that we have as a policy making group, but also with the contents of the other peer learning clubs sectors, groups. And then what are the needs of the target? We need to identify and to reflect about what they need. They need technical support, they need to be re-elected, so they need consensus, they need information, they need enemies, or they need friends. So this is part of the strategy that we have to implement, and then we have to analyze the decision-making process that they implement to enter in the right place in the right moment. This is, for example, connected with our current strategy that we are running in this moment, because all these processes run in parallel with the European process for the pact for skills, and in general, the consultancy processes that the Commission is running at the moment, and that will bring all the European stakeholders to release a vision during the European Skills Week. So all these efforts are fitting in this process. You can go to the slide number
Giovanni, just a reminder, Giovanni, that we are behind schedule and we need other two presentations need to be made.
Yes, okay. So, behind number 7, please. Number 8, number 7 was what I said right now. So there is an European approach to COVES as an elite that cannot be repeated. This was the contribution of ETF member Georgios. And instead we see excellence as a continuous effort. Our COVES network is based on the participation, sharing, participative model, voluntary model, and excellence as a result, and not as a statement, as a state of elite positioned in a place where the other people, other organizations cannot reach. We need to keep in consideration best practices to make our proposals, and so for policymakers, and we need to define better, or to underline that the use of the TVET and VET terms influence also the policy and the decisions results, because address to different targets, the resources and other aspects. That was underlined by one of our participants to the group, by Richard. Research and collection of data is necessary. This was the input of Lara, giving result to the need to collect data in a continuous way, in the proper way, to make decisions, policy decisions that are coherent with the reality and not just fantastic ideas of the policymakers. Then this was my definition of our positioning is necessary to define our positioning, because this is our main message, our identity, and what are the characteristics that define the Skillman approach, and in particular the global COVES approach to policy making, what we are going to provide, and we need to make a rational at the end. Before to present our proposal to the policy makers, we need to have a rational with precise information. Can you go to the next slide, please? And then we going to close. So we need to consider rules that afflict the system from local level up to higher levels, international, supranational bodies, interaction levels, to influence the whole chain of the education and TVET and VET system. We need to have a recognition of the COVE's role in this interaction, and we have to push, to promote a design of the society of the future that passes through the contribution of the education system and the curricula design and the design of the educational systems, TVET, VET. I don't want now go against the same concept that we have said before. Then next slide, and this is the last one, the last 2 points. We need the more transparent mechanisms for the involvement of the TVET providers and the companies that participate to the VET and TVET efforts, and the policy processes and the policy results must be done involving the stakeholders in a transparent way. And then we have also, finally, but not the least, very important, involve the learners through the TVET providers, giving the opportunity to the learners to participate to the processes, decisional processes.
Okay, thank you, Giovanni, for your presentation. It was very accurate and very elaborated, so that was a good contribution. Thank you. So I will just get back to the next point, Elena, if you want, and then we need to present the last 2 presentations, and then we need to close because we are over time. Thank you, Elena.
Regarding priorities and challenges for PLC3, so work-based learning. Work-based learning is impacting on digitalization, COVID emergencies, so we can innovate, valorize and innovate VBL through digitalization as leverage able to reinforce, improve VBL in all its 4 forms of them itself, and also trying to innovate education settings through embedding digitalization, so testing new methodologies, for example, related to immersive training environments, and also facing the problem of the digital mindset, both for trainers and trainees. So, next one. Regarding new methodologies, testing and valorizing the embedding of VR as immersive methodologies that can prepare workers in customized safe and protected environments, speed up also the traditional training courses or initiatives, and also working on empowerment and upskilling of trainers and teachers, not only trainees and learners. So please, the next one. These are, yes, of course, we can go on with the results because we can post everything on Basecamp. So a result of the discussion in the sub-room of PLC3.
Just a second, Elena, because I'm trying to find it. Eccolo. Okay.
So after a very interesting discussion, that's the first result of our debate in the sub-room. And of course, we can continue this debate on Basecamp from tomorrow, we can say. So,
Elena, did you write them here, or should I just stay on this slide, Elena?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is the
summary, okay.
We used, so we can use this one. So supporting digitalization as a very crucial process, but supporting digitalization of learning and digital transformation in learning means also to guarantee the access to all, no one left behind. So It means good opportunities, empower trainers and teachers, innovative curricula, but first of all, better equipment, because the COVID emergency has shown a difficulty and a digital divide also in assessing adapted to the technology. Better training can be more individualized. Upskilling opportunities for teachers and trainers and trainees can support this very dynamic changing process. Defining joint strategies means improving cooperation between vet schools, vet providers and companies, also not only for defining joint training plans, let me say, but also for sharing resources, even equipments, fighting the above-mentioned digital divide. SELFIE, as the tool of the European Commission, can play a crucial role representing an opportunity for a common monitoring exercise for all stakeholders to evaluate capacity building, for sharing and supporting best practices that are under development. Because as Ralph says, SELFIE is under development, under improvement, specifically related to a sort of best practice repository, and also for a WBL session, specific session. Public actions, so public interventions are necessary, are considered crucial to speed up the process towards inclusive training environments for guaranteeing the access to everybody. So tools, as said before, spaces, common study areas, accessible learning opportunities, etc. WBL is very inclusive in any form. Digitalization can be considered another leverage for improved this accessibility. So these are the first results of our discussion.
Okay, that was great, Elena. Very concise as always. Thank you very much for your power of synthesis. So let's move on to the next group, and let's see the results, Julian, of the last group, PLC4, starting from identifying the priorities and then moving on to the plan, the strategies. Julian, if you want to.
Right, sure. So we looked at teacher training, or training the trainers, and I think we needed to understand that basically the traditional role of teachers and trainers has evolved quite tremendously over the last few decades, and particularly now with COVID-19, teachers and trainers have been forced into the online training model, whether they like it or not. And we also realized that actually motivation is one of the top things for upskilling teachers and trainers, because if they don't have the right motivation, they're not going to do a good job. So train the trainer programs need to focus on emerging skills and on new technologies. Next slide, please. So, but of course, you can only do it properly if you have the right policies behind you. For example, if you just force all the teachers to suddenly teach online without giving them the proper support and the policies to back them up, you're not going to get good results. So we need to find new ways of engaging with the students as well as the teacher trainees, so they understand the role they have to play within this new form of learning. And yet we still have to, because we're talking of TVET systems, we have to reinforce the dual system and business education partnership. So, and of course, you know, motivated and skilled teachers and trainers need to be able to handle learning environments in any condition. So this is what we've come up with. We need to make the teacher trainees understand new technologies. That means two aspects: access to the technologies and integration of new technologies in the teaching, because not all the students have access to the new technologies. Not all of them know how to use it. So before you can even teach them using it, you have to make sure they have access to and knowledge of these technologies. We also need to provide these trainers and teachers with new tools for teaching, because a lot of the old tools are going to be obsolete and they don't lend themselves to a direct translation for an online environment or a blended learning environment. One of the points that was raised very importantly was that a lot of industry-based teachers, that means professionals from industry who come in to teach in schools, they don't necessarily have the right pedagogical or andragogical training, so they may not make for good teachers. So one suggestion was to maybe look at designing a certification system or providing specific training programs for people coming from industry so they know how to teach. They may be able to show you how to do it, but they may not be able to explain how it's done. So I think this is very important. Next slide, please, Valentina. Great. And so because of all of the above, we need to adapt the existing technologies and teaching methods to create new scenarios in order to stay relevant within the industry of practice and keep up to date with changes. And this also relates to the idea that even those who are teachers need to always keep their feet in the industry. So they're not just lecturing on the basis of something they learned 20 years ago and thinking that's still relevant today. So they need to be continuous in their practice within the industry. And that also means that we need to integrate and encourage more work-based learning practices and ensure that teachers buy into this concept. Do we have any more, Valentina? Yeah, okay. So, and basically to keep teachers and educators motivated by showing the impacts of new technology and new methodologies by sharing experiences. And we do this in order to reduce the fear of change, because when people are just told they have to go and learn this new way of teaching without any support and backing, they will feel afraid and probably not do a good job. And that is what we've come up with in PLC4.
Okay, Julian, thank you very much. So we have presented the results of all the 4 discussions of the 4 peer learning clubs. So we have come to the conclusion of today's meeting with the peer learning clubs. As of from today, we are officially launching the second phase of our work plan strategies. So a lot of inputs were proposed by all the participants. Thank you very much for attending. I will just remind you that all the materials of this meeting will be uploaded on Basecamp, which is our main platform where our discussions will continue, and we'll move on from now as we started and until the very end. Again, thank you very much to all the coordinators, Fabio Croci, Giovanni Crisona, Elena Romanini, and Julian Ang. I hope one day I will be pronouncing that well. Again, thank you very much for attending. I shall see you very soon. We will definitely organize some more meetings in the upcoming weeks. Just keep updated, and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Valentina.
Thank you. Bye.
You, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very
Goodbye.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Oh.